Hello everybody and welcome to tonight's Digital Doorstep interview. Very soon we will be joined by Stephen Marken. Stephen is a challenger candidate running in Selbridge, and as I've done before, I will allow Stephen to introduce himself when he joins us, which will be very soon. So just to explain, I think people might actually want to know, why is there a little bit of bump? Why is there 2 or 3 minutes of me talking to myself at the start of the interviews? Well, it's for a couple of reasons. Firstly, there's a little delay between us starting and the guests being able to come into the interview. So all of the candidates need a couple of minutes to accept the invite. There's a little bit of technical stuff going on in the background. But also it allows those of us who don't come on bang on 9 o'clock to join in and be here for the good stuff, which is when the candidate actually arrives. I'd like to start tonight a little bit differently. I suppose my own nerves are gone now. I was incredibly nervous when we started doing this on Monday. And it appears to have shaken off, I'm delighted to say. And I'd like to share some information with you about Selbridge politics and what has happened to it in the last 28 days since we started talking about these elections, because really it is something to note. Selbridge has a very vibrant and active online community, as we all know, but I didn't expect what has happened within the group in the last 28 days. We've had 129 new members, bringing our total to 689. Sorry, I should scratch that out, 690, because we had a new joiner just a couple of moments before we came live. There have been over 2,200 posts, comments and shares. That means people engaging in the group. So of the 690 members that are here on the Selbridge Politics group, over 550 of them are active. Active means they're online, they're tuning in, and I can see the stats on these interviews, for example. They're massive. They represent a huge chunk of the proportion of people who will be voting and whose votes will count in the counts after May the 24th. So it really is very important. I mean, some of our candidates in the past, it could have been several counts in before they were actually elected and got that stamp when the counts were being done in 2014. So just to give you an idea, and I suppose to appreciate the audience that's here, what we're doing will make a difference. There are so many eyeballs on these videos. It's amazing. It's fantastic. In the comments on the last 3 videos we have done, there are almost 200 questions and answers. The candidates, to their credit, have all come in, addressed every question that's on a local issue that they've seen. Those answers are still happening. They're all still in progress, but there's a lot going on there. So if you have a question, please do ask. Stick it in the comments down below. That's what they're there for. And yes, something to point out as well. A lot of people will have made their selections or are making their selections. Some of them are using these interviews to inform those selections for the all-important May the 24th vote. I just wanted to remind everybody, you may have your favourite candidate in mind, and that's fantastic, fair play, but don't forget your second and third votes. They mean absolutely everything. If you have a question that you've asked your first preference and you were thrilled with their answer, that's brilliant. I'm delighted we were able to get you that answer, bring it to you. Don't forget to ask the question to another candidate. Remember that your second and third votes are crucial. So if you like the flavour of a particular candidate, check and see who comes a close second. Check who's your first, who's your second. Have a think about that, and have a think about what you're doing tomorrow week, which is Friday the 24th. Are you going to be at work? Are you going to be at home? Can you pop in at lunchtime to vote? Will the traffic be mad that day? Do you need to get groceries? Do you need to, do anything? Have you communion the next morning, for example? Have a think about your logistics for that day, because I would encourage absolutely everybody to think ahead, plan ahead. It only takes a minute to vote. It's so important, and we have a really excellent panel of candidates in Selbridge this year. I have to say, I think you'll agree that they're extremely impressive. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Stephen onto the chat as usual. I might lose audio for 20 seconds or so, so stick with us. We'll be straight back with the audio if it does drop. Yeah, I think we've covered everything. So I'll do a quick recap of the format of the questions, etc. once Stephen is on, and we'll kick it off and get stuck in. So bear with me just 1 second. I will bring Stephen in. Hi.
Hey,
Hi,
Tressa.
Stephen. How are
How are
you?
you? Not too bad yourself?
Good, good, good. Very, very well. Thanks very much.
Thanks.
We've got a great and growing audience. I've had the pleasure of being able to say that at the start of each of these interviews. But people are here. They're watching, and I also have the luxury of being able to tell you that the engagement throughout these interviews is huge. Everybody who's asked questions, and a lot of the questions that are coming up, they're coming up as a second time, and I really encourage that. The box is below, guys. Just stick in your question if you've got a local issue, something on your mind. Let's get stuck in and see how Stephen responds. I know that this is possibly a first for you, Stephen. Would I be right in saying that?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. Well, look, you're in very good company. You're in very friendly company. The support that's come in for all the candidates from everybody watching has been enormous.
Yeah.
So, what I'm going to do is briefly recap the format of the interview as I have done at the start of all the rest. Remind everybody that the candidates have seen the interview questions in advance of the interviews. The purpose here is to let you hear their answers, let you get to know them a little bit, and ask your own questions in the comments. So even if we've seen the questions before, Selbridge is a place with a lot of common themes to the issues that are around. So please ask them again. Let's get Stephen a chance to address them as well. So the format of the interview, I will ask, firstly, I will ask Stephen to introduce himself, tell us a little bit about his platform, why he's running, all that jazz, and then we'll kick off with some questions, the first of which is common to all the candidates that we're interviewing, and then the others are different for each candidate. So, without further ado, Stephen Marken, you are extremely welcome. You are a challenger candidate. You're here laying it all on the line for everybody in Selbridge. I'm thrilled to have you on. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, perfect. Starting off, family-wise, I'm married to Katrina, also a teacher in school in Monastruck. 2 kids. Roisin is 3. Aoife is 4 months, 4.5 months. 3 dogs, 3 hens. So kind of busy in our house with kids and animals. Yeah, it's great fun.
Right, good.
I've been teaching in school in Monastruck since 2007. Have a great time there. It's one of the I love my job. I think most teachers do. I get to go in and have good fun with 23 kids every day, so love that. Kind of got involved in activism from a very young age. I was one of the founding members of what we call Leaks Up Youth Council at the time. It was a group of like-minded teenagers who wanted to have a voice and wanted to air their concerns and to feed into public policy. So I think we were 14 or 15 when we started at first, and we worked through the town council that existed at the time. It's gone now, and tried to feed into the town council meetings to develop policy and develop initiatives for young people to get involved in. That's how I kind of got to know Catherine Murphy. Catherine has been a mentor of mine since I was 15 or 16, and I've been canvassing with her and working with her ever since. I'll come back to Catherine in a second, and back to my political life in a few seconds. But work-wise, I suppose, as somebody who's an activist by nature, as a teacher, it's the natural progression that you're going to get involved in your union. So I was and still am very heavily involved in the INTO, taking a couple of months off because this election has taken everything over at the moment. But I would have been involved at a very local level as a staff rep in the school, and right up to a national level, and I've been involved in a number of campaigns, most notably probably the lesser paid teacher issue. Teachers who qualified during the recession, I'm losing the dates now, 2011, are paid on an inferior pay scale. And we fought for the last number of years to try and rectify that. We're getting closer, we're not there yet, but it's probably the big ticket issue in education unions. From that, made great friends and great colleagues and with other activists within the INTO, and we felt that the union wasn't properly representing our voice. So we started a Facebook page, which is a bit similar to your own, kind of grown massively. It started off with, very few followers. Voice for Teachers is the name of it. I think we've 37 or 38,000 followers now. We've 20 odd posts a day. It's unreal engagement.
Put me to shame.
You believe me, you don't want the work that goes with it. So from there, I suppose I would have started to work a lot closer with Catherine. I think part of being an independent, as she was at the time, or being part of a small party, is you draw on people with a certain set of skills and a certain level of expertise in an area. So I would have been one of Catherine's go-to people for education. It's it's my interest, it's my job, and it's my hobby. So I would have fed into a lot of kind of education policy, class size, special education needs, all them kind of things that are very, very relevant to Celbridge. But again, they're bigger picture things. And I suppose we're trying to talk about, local issues, but I have this real problem that I think if we only look at potholes and street lamps, we lose sight of joined up thinking, and all of these things feed into each other. I would have also worked with other TDs over the years through different lobbies. I think I've lobbied all of them at this stage. They'll all be kind of sick of the sight of me lobbying them on different education issues over the years. Um, and then just my interest in particular are educational disadvantage. I don't think people see the level of both time poverty in Celbridge, but also real financial poverty in Celbridge. And you've got children who are really doing well to make it to school, and parents who are struggling to keep clothes on their back and food on the table. And this is in a supposedly developed town, and a town that has all the supports that we should have. One of the things that I would like to do in relation to educational disadvantage, and the only reason I'm jumping onto it is I know it doesn't come up in one of the questions, but it's something I'm passionate about, is if we were in a DESH Band 1 school or a DESH school in a disadvantaged area, we would have a homeschool community liaison teacher who addresses a number of issues. A homeschool liaison teacher can address attendance issues, they can address, homework clubs, they do breakfast clubs, they have regular meetings with parents, and it's a really, really effective way of breaking that cycle of educational disadvantage. And I think it's something that we could do in Celbridge on a clustered basis between a number of schools. It's not something that you could get, one, I don't think we'll get one for School of Monastruck or one for Agard's or one for St. Patrick's, but in a clustered basis, I think it's a pilot project that could really work. As a councillor, am I going to be able to deliver it? Absolutely not. It's not a Kildare County Council issue, but I think councillors have to be seen as leaders in their community. They have to be lobbyists in their community and working through the council. And with other councillors, I've no problem working with them to lobby TUSLA because TUSLA would be in charge of the funding of a homeschool liaison teacher. Work with TUSLA to try this pilot project and see does it have an effect. So that's kind of my background.
Absolutely. Well, look, it's comprehensive, and I suppose what you've told us there is that you're familiar with campaigning, you're familiar with getting people together under a common cause. Without saying it in so many words, you're obviously passionate about education. I mean, it's in your blood, and you're obviously passionate about children and youth and what's happening around services for them, and making going to school not a challenge for as many children as it is in Celbridge. So so it's a fantastic introduction, and it's great. It gives us a real insight into you and who you are. I know that from speaking with the other candidates as well, I know that going door to door, you get a fraction of the doors opening, because of course you never know who's home.
Yeah.
And of those fraction of the doors that open, a fraction again will have time or make time to speak to any candidate.
Yeah.
So this is a great way for people to kind of learn that little bit about you and get to know you and hear you speak for yourself and give your approach. So thanks for that. So before we move on to the questions, I just want to invite as many questions as possible. Even if you've asked it before, folks, let's ensure that Stephen has a chance to answer and show you his approach on these questions as well. Some topics that might interest the people at home watching. Owen asked earlier on, for example, which of the candidates are going to the Raise the Roof, which is Saturday. Lots of questions about the 67, but lots of criticism about the 67 bus. Lots of talk about Gardaí, crime, the bridge, roads infrastructure, special needs and SNA, which I know you're probably very well versed on, Stephen. The traveller accommodation budget, dog runs, puppy farms, social housing, childcare, schools. It's all there. So there's a whole gambit there to run. There's a whole menu of options for all of the councillors. So everybody at home, sink your teeth in. Let's get stuck into it in the comments. Stephen is well able to address all of them, and like all other candidates, he has agreed to take on and address as many questions on local issues as he can after the interview is shared. So with that, we'll move on to the questions. This is the common question. It's the one that is asked of everyone. Stephen, How are you doing? Are you all right?
All good, yeah, you were
Good,
right.
good, good. Go. Well, there you go. You see, it just happens after a few
Yeah,
minutes. Colin, talking about nerves and jitters and all the rest of it, because it's the only thing I share with the candidates is I know what it's like to be nervous when you're in front of so many people. So fair play to you, Stephen. You're doing great. On the common question, it often appeared that the municipal district councillors were at cross purposes with one another, and that Kildare County Council places many obstacles in the way of securing infrastructural and other funding for Selbridge. Is this a fair assessment in your view? What approaches will you take to fostering a more cohesive working environment amongst the councillors and with Kildare County Council officials? What will you do to maximise the share of funding that gets directed to Selbridge?
brilliant.
I know,
Okay,
I know they're long-winded, but it's to give
they are,
context as well to
but
everything else.
that's
Yeah,
perfect.
yeah,
So I think if we break the question down a little bit,
yeah,
so the working cohesively, I think we have to have a certain level of realism as well, where
yeah.
all competitors at the moment
Mm-hmm.
on the 25th or 26th of May, that stops. And we have to work together as a team. And I'm not just talking about the councillors in Selbridge, I'm talking about the councillors in Selbridge or Leixlip or the Clane electorate area. All the councillors are going to have to work together. And I think, is it a fair assessment? Yes. And to me, it would seem to be a fair assessment that they were
Okay.
at odds with each other. There's no shame in it. Personally speaking, for me, I'm not really good at holding grudges or getting stuck in a rut about one issue. If there's an issue we disagree on it. We vote, you win, you lose, you move on. I don't see why that isn't the strategy. There's going to be things that we disagree on. And I think the mood of the country for the past, say, 2 3 years, especially in relation to the Eighth Amendment, it was so divisive that it must have infiltrated into every sector of society,
It did.
and
It did.
that will continue on at council level. So, and I think, a fresh start is definitely something that we need. Fresh faces are definitely what we need as well. Of course, I'll say that, but I think I've met other councillors out on the campaign trail. Literally the first night we were out canvassing, we were in Derek Court and we had 2 doors done, and I bumped into Ida, and Ida said, Stephen, we'll move on to St. Patrick's Park, you were here first, and we'll swap the next night. And I think that level
Lovely.
of cooperation straight off the bat, there was no messing. It was
Lovely.
just, that's
Yeah.
what we do. I met John Paul Monks tonight. He was putting up a poster, I was getting ready to canvass, straight over, have a chat, and that's the way things have to be, because at the end of the day, have your row in the council chamber, walk out, and that's the end of it. It's a thing we do very well in the union, in the INTO. I would have had many disagreements with, executive level people, and it gets very, very heated in a room, and you have rows, you have discussions, you come to a conclusion, you move on. That's the end of it. Once the debate is done, it's done. Now, in relation to how we work together and how you can manage to, effectively have your changes brought in, I think, having worked with Catherine over the years, I saw the work she got done with the technical group when she was an independent. And some of the people on the technical group are as far away from Catherine politically and far away from myself politically as you can get. And she managed to effect great change because they worked together. They looked at what they had in common as opposed to what they had as a difference between them. And I think that kind of attitude about looking at things, let's work where we can together, let's have our disagreements, and let's move on. In assuring that Selbridge gets its fair share of the pie in relation to funding, I think we have to look at that a little bit broader and look at how Kildare gets its fair share. We are, as a county, so under-resourced and
Yeah.
under-financed. It is scary.
Here, here.
We
Yeah.
are 31st of 32 counties in relation to staffing in Kildare County Council. As a public
Yeah.
servant, I know what understaffing has done. I've seen what the cuts have done, and I can only imagine what it's doing to the staff in Kildare County Council. It's when you know you can't do your job because there isn't the staff to help you, how can you be motivated? How can you get the work done? We need a massive investment in local government. We need a whole new look at local government. We need to start saying to our TDs, when they call around to the doors at the next general election, are you in favour of improving local government? We want to see town councils coming back. We want to see proper funding of Kildare County Council. These are all things that have to be asked of TDs. I've got it on the door numerous times about planning, about if I hear about the estate opposite Skull and Monostrock one more time, I can recite the line off by heart now. That is not the fault of Kildare County Council. That is the fault of successive governments that have weakened local government. We need to stand up and say to our TDs, we want stronger local government. Look, there is nothing sexy about local government, don't get me wrong. But when you see it and see the effects that it has when it's decimated, I think it's pretty clear to see what can be or what should be done.
Okay, that's a really comprehensive response, and what's unusual, what stands out in that response for me is that part of your response to answering that question, and you only had as much time as anybody else to prepare for it, is actually making local government itself an item to talk about with the councillors and with the TDs. That's unusual. It's the first time I've heard it, but I can tell you that devolved government certainly needs a look. If you take what people are saying in the comments, and if you take the explanations that are coming back from councillors, that would be a takeaway from that, is that empowerment at local level, and certainly budgeting in Kildare and at local level in Selbridge is vital. So thank you for that. I'd like to just recap on a couple of the questions that have come in while we've been speaking. I'm not sure if you can you see them on your screen?
I have them blanked on purpose because it'll distract me.
That's okay. That's okay. Yeah. Leave that bit to me. From Bernard. Bernard mentions an interesting point and actually gives a little bit of a colour on the problem about social housing and affordable housing. He mentions that there are lots of adult kids living at home. You know, it's a very personal situation for a family when you have that tightness in the house, when you know that your adult child, or indeed if you are an adult living at home with mom or dad or whomever, to have a situation where you can't really start your own life and you're stuck. So Bernard has come in with that little bit of context. It's a nice way to put the question, Bernard. Thanks very much. Michael has come in about the environment and the idea of going plastic free in schools. So something that you in particular might be able to influence. So those are the sorts of questions that are coming up. I see a lot of people hitting the like button whenever you're talking. So keep it going, guys, because Stephen, like all the challenger candidates, is laying it all out on the line for us here. So let's, if you have as I said last night, if you have a spare thumb, hit like, and let's support them. So we'll move on, Stephen, if we can.
Yeah.
To question two. Question two is on youth services. On the subject of our young people, who are so often overlooked, while more and more of them fall into patterns of antisocial behaviour. You have said that you will look to establish a youth council in Selbridge, and that will work directly with the council and feed into policy. I'm going to go off script here for a moment because I'd like to reflect something I learned from speaking with one of the other candidates earlier in the week. When we mention antisocial behaviour, we are mentioning that very tiny proportion of our young people, that very, very tiny proportion of our young people, and it's a shame that takes the focus, I suppose, away from the vast majority of excellent young people. Selbridge is producing a beautiful community here, and there's absolutely no doubt that the youth here are really the heart of the party when it comes to where Selbridge is going. You can see it in sports, you can see it all over the place. So I just want to make that point clear. Yeah. But for that tiny fraction who probably need a little bit of support or help, and who may have been underserved by what Selbridge has to offer in terms of support services. So just wanted to add that context if I could. My question is, how do you propose to take ideas from Selbridge's youth for submission onto a new council? Which groups will you be working with to achieve this? And how do you plan to influence policy at county level?
Okay,
council level, I beg your pardon, at council level.
I'm just taking note of something you said there as well, so sorry. So yeah, my idea for a youth council is probably like Leaks of Youth Council 2.0. And I think it's a really effective way of empowering young people. So I would look to use representatives from the student councils of the 3 secondaries and the 6 primary schools. So you'd ask for a rep from each of them. The Youth Cafe, I've dropped down to them Monday Fridays to have a look at the work that they do. It is phenomenal what they do. Yeah. But again, there are, and I know Ciara was instrumental in setting it up, and kudos to her for that. And I think the work that they do is amazing. but they're in such a small space. They've only got one night a week. That needs to be expanded. But I'd like representatives from the Youth Cafe, from the Scouts, from different sports clubs, from Selbridge GAA, from Ballyulster, from Selbridge Town, Selbridge Athletics. You know, they're places where young people gather. And then obviously an open invitation to the public in general, to young people to come along and have. So you'd start off with a series of open meetings. From that, have a youth council set up. Whatever amount of members, that's not what's important. What's important is you're empowering young people to feed into policy. I would love to open up, say, at a quarterly basis, having the youth council have a chance to address the municipal council or the municipal committee. I think I'm more than happy to hear the views. It doesn't take too long. If we're in touch with them on a regular basis, they won't be telling us anything we don't know already. I think just to pick up on something you said about the antisocial behaviour and the support and the help that the young people need. I think when antisocial behaviour is taking place, and I've seen it as a young fella who grew up in Leixlip, we were all messers, shall we say. But them services should be put in place, not when they're in 5th and 6th year. Them services need to be in place in junior and senior infants. Talk to any teacher. Talk to any infant teacher. Talk to any teacher in 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 5th, 6th class. They'll tell you the kids who are going to be in trouble. They can tell you already. These things go in cycles, and it's the same group of people are ending up in trouble. And this is what is heartbreaking as a teacher. You go into school every day and you can say, Jesus, I hope he's going to be okay. We should never be able to do that. We should never be able to look and say, this child could end up in trouble. Every child should have a fair crack at a whip and the same opportunities as each other. And I think it comes back to both empowering young people by also supporting young people, giving them support, giving them a youth council, giving them a voice, but also having, I called to one door over the last couple of weeks and was speaking to a guard. And I was reminded of a community guard that we had in Leixlip, a guy called Barry Roach. He was a fantastic community guard, because he would come along and look, we were teenagers, sitting on walls, chatting late on a Friday or Saturday evening. He'd walk by, how are you lads? How's things? Listen, if there's any hassle, give us a ring. Now, it wasn't done in a confrontational way. It was done in a real holistic way of policing, and it worked, because if something ever went wrong, you knew Barry was at the end of the phone, and he was a decent fella who wasn't out to do you. He was out to look after you. And the guard who I called to during the week said to me, he said, the best form of policing is community policing. I agree with him wholeheartedly. It's, we should be working as teachers. We should be working with the guards. We should be working with all the youth services together to address the social issues that are coming up. A couple of the people who are canvassing with me have warned me, if I start talking about dogs or young people, I'm finished, because I could go on all night about it. So that's my ideas for a youth council. You want me to keep talking about youth council or dogs, we'll do that. But that's my basic idea behind it.
Okay, well, okay, it's again a wide-ranging answer with a lot of details in there, and I thank you for that. You've given us a very good overview. You're interested in setting up, for example, a quarterly address of the municipal council or of the council. You're interested in supporting and expanding the services of the youth cafe, and since you mentioned it, Selbridge Community Council and the Youth Cafe, there's a phenomenal amount of work going on there, and I just want to commend the volunteers for keeping it going. You've mentioned the importance of a community Garda, so you've wrapped that up. Obviously, well, it seems obvious to me that you've got a very well thought out approach to youth services, and from listening to you, Stephen, you'll forgive me for saying it sounds like you're ready to attack that subject and really do something about it. So
it's just as an aside on that, and this is letting people into the idea of how the beautiful literature that we get designed and placed in your letterbox comes to be. We're going through the issues, and there's part of you has to be cold-hearted and say, okay, what are the issues and what are the things that I fancy talking about? And to me, it's brass tacks, what gets you votes and what doesn't. To me, this was put in because it's something I believe in, I'm really passionate about. And it was on the cutting room floor, because I was going, is there any votes in this? And it is surprising. People don't want us to send in the guards with batons or dog units, as was suggested by someone who's running for election in Limerick. They don't want that. They want strong communities that look after their own and work with each other. The idea of, you know, the guards are there to fix them and they're only little pups who need a crack of a bat. Nobody that I've spoken to wants that. They want supports for their young people. So I think it was particularly nice when I was going to doors and people saying, what are you going to do about antisocial behaviour? And I was able to say, well, here's my plan. And people are going, Jesus, that makes sense. So it's something that is coming up, but people don't want the stock answer of the guards need to fix them or their parents need to put manners on them.
Yeah.
So
there
are other
you're
options.
right. I've heard this. I've heard the same sense. I think the call for extra guardian Selbridge is threefold. It's about having a station open, about having presence in that regard. It's about having a faster response time when we need the guards. But in terms of the community policing side of things, it's about having that wraparound set of supports in a town like ours, which has a massive population of young people. Tomorrow's voters, by the way, everybody. So I mean, you know. That's where the focus on crime and the Gardaí comes from, and it does have this element about youth services, youth development, youth protection, and youth support. So again, a good comprehensive answer, Stephen, and thank you for that. So I'll take a pause as I like to do every now and again, and have a little look and see what's going on in the comments. We've touched on a lot of the subjects already. There are a lot of people watching, so I'm directly addressing the people who are watching. If you have asked your question before, please ask it again. Stephen is looking for your number one on May 24th. Give him a crack at it. He is hungry to answer these questions. And I would urge you to, even if you feel like you're repeating yourself or you're satisfied with another answer, remember, it's first vote, second vote, third vote. You've got all of those decisions to take. So, and here's another one from Eve. Hi, Eve. Planning in Selbridge, the number of houses are not supported by the current infrastructure. That's a core theme. It's running through everything these days. I'm glad to tell you, Pauline. Hi, Pauline, and thanks for that. She wishes you very, very good luck. Mick Madden says you're a really nice lad to talk to. Well, isn't that nice? Thanks, Mick. That's cool. That's really brilliant. So a lot of positivity in the comments, and a great bit of spirit. So a lot of people out there, they're rooting for our candidates, and it's a tough decision to make because we really have an amazing panel of candidates, the entire 11, not just the 7 that we are interviewing this week, but the entire 11. So we'll move on to question 3. I'm particularly interested, just from a personal point of view, I'm particularly interested in your response on this one. You have mentioned that because it's something that's a pet peeve of mine as well. You've mentioned that you want to move away from the politics of sound bites, and you want to get stuck into real issues such as traffic, youth engagement, public transport, among other things. However, there are sometimes public disagreements about the best way forward. Which school to prioritise, how best to engage young people, where to put the bridge, whether to fight for new routes or more capacity on the 67, for example. And as I mentioned at the top of the interview, Selbridge has a vibrant, active, vocal online community, and indeed a vibrant, active and vocal population in general. Everybody has an opinion. It's one of the best things about us. So this question is about achieving consensus. Where there is a lack of local consensus, what approach will you take to ensuring that you are effective in fairly representing the best interests of the community, and how will you communicate this?
Okay, but just 2 things. You said you're particularly interested in the answer. You mightn't like my answer. And which school to prioritise? My school, School of Monastrick. Just, I mean, purely selfish.
Okay.
So, how to look at people's issues, and I think again this is a legacy issue insofar as houses have been built willy-nilly and there hasn't been planning put in place. So we need to take a little step back, and we need to say, okay, if we are going to continue developing, we need to involve people from day one. I think part of the problem is planning notices are put up and nobody knows they go up. And it's done really, really fast, and people go, oh Jesus, now there's 251 houses going in on the Old Town Road. And I think you have to involve people from day one. There has to be a proper consultation process. Now, I'm delighted you mentioned the bridge, because it's literally the number one thing that comes up. I know Ida had some info on it about 24 months before a site can be picked. I think realistically, we're not going to see this second bridge in the 5-year term of this local government. We have to be honest about it. I don't think that's going to happen. But there are other things that we can do to alleviate traffic, because that's the second thing that comes up is traffic. I'll come back to that in a second, because I don't want to lose the question as such. When there is disagreement, when there isn't a consensus, I think if you have involved people from day one, if you have given people their chance to be consulted, there is always going to be disagreement. Where does the bridge go? I don't know, but we have to try and choose the least worst option. And I don't like using that phrase because
Yeah.
it reminds me of what was of recessionary times, and we're choosing the least worst option. But that is genuinely what we have to do. There are going to be people who are put out. It's people mightn't want to hear that, but I have to be honest. The new bridge, wherever it goes, whenever it goes there, is going to cause an inconvenience for somebody.
Yeah.
But we have to look at the greater good. And I think I will, if I support whatever plan it may be, or I don't support whatever plan it may be, it may win me votes, but it may lose me votes as well. And local politicians and national politicians have to stand up and say, this is what I believe in. This is where I'm coming from, and not stand behind and say, oh, Jesus, isn't that terrible now? And then tell the next person, oh, isn't that great? We have to be open with people. And I think you're right about what you're saying about the social media community in Selbridge is so much stronger. I can't tell lies on social media because it comes back to bite you.
Yeah.
You can say one thing on one doorstep and another on another as it suits your
That's
audience.
absolutely right. Yeah, I've
The
seen a
audience
number
on
of
social
times.
media.
I've seen people being quoted. I've seen statements being repeated back. I've seen screenshots put in of a comment a year ago as answers. We've all seen it. And since we hit the subject, and I know it must sound like I'm plugging Selbridge information and the Selbridge info pages and the parent groups that are out there and all of that, but I mean, there are 11,000 people in the Selbridge information group. I don't have the stat offhand for the Selbridge info group. I think they do a magnificent job. And really, if you want to take the temperature of Selbridge, you can sit with your phone in your hand for the day and have a little look and see what's going on. It's all there. It's incredible.
Look, it's no
that's
coincidence.
Where the debate happens.
Yeah, it's no coincidence that all 11 candidates, I imagine, are looking at the page every single day and your own page every single day, because it's the best form of market research is to see what people are actually talking about.
Yeah.
I know I use the Selbridge information page. It's great for communicating. We had a concert on in the school recently, and I just asked Trish would she post it. I run the school Facebook page as well. I asked Trish would she post it. She posted it, and the next morning the amount of tickets that were looked for was phenomenal. The amount of views that our videos, that's phenomenal. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, yeah. Well, listen, another comprehensive answer. I have to say, I haven't found a dodger yet. The questions, now, granted, everybody has, as I've said, for my own transparency's sake, I've said it at the start of every interview that the candidates have seen the questions, but I hope you can see that some real energy has gone into making a comprehensive and clear response for everybody, and it's really fantastic. So thank you for your answers to those questions, Stephen. They're very valuable, and I'm sure they will have changed minds and opened eyes in the viewership, either here live or on the replay afterwards. I'd like to touch on, before I wrap up, I'd like to touch on a couple of questions. Sorry, a couple of comments and questions. Adam Leach has come on, and thanks, Adam, to mention that he agrees with you about your approach to young people. Michal Work, I hope it's Michal instead of Michael. The name is gone now, but it was there a moment ago. Mr. Work, anyway, regarding the playground. And just making a comment about, amenities being destroyed and that sort of thing. And sadly, we have seen that it's.
Sorry, can I just to do with the playground, because this is another thing that's come up. If you go to the playground in Maynooth, there is the kids' playground, and right beside it is the youth playground. It's a well-lit area. It has benches for kids to sit down.
I've been there.
Fantastic. It's a really good facility. There is no reason why that shouldn't happen in Selbridge. It's something that, because I'm not the only one who said it, there's other councillors have said it as well. I'd love to work with the other councillors to get it done. And that's where your community policing takes place.
Yeah, I guess the question there is, will it be secured? Will it be locked at night? Who's going to do it? Who's going to fund it? Will it be lit? Will there be cameras? Will there be not? Is there GDPR concerns? That's what you get into the minute. Finding a site is really the least of your worries, although you'd imagine it's the big elephant in the room. It's not. It's all of those little details.
And another thing, sorry, Trassa, just that's come up about playgrounds, and as someone who has a particular and a keen interest in special educational needs, one of the things that I've suggested is that the playground at Agards can be used in a way that's more facilitative for people with special educational needs. So one of the things that I'm proposing that we do is have an hour, if it's an hour a day, an hour every second day, whatever it might be, of, similar to what Lidl do or what SuperValu do, a sensory friendly time, preceded with an information campaign telling people if there's a child sitting on a bench stimming, or if there's a child screaming, it's not necessarily that they're in distress. It could be about, putting in a wheelchair friendly swing, wheelchair friendly slides, that kind of thing. We need to open it up to people with learning difficulties and with physical disabilities. So that's another thing that I'm really interested in the playground. I don't know why I haven't got it in my leaflet, but it's one of them things that's come up.
The leaflets can only take so much information,
Exactly.
and it's certainly clear that you're bursting with ideas, and I think that's a fabulous idea. I must admit. So I look forward to seeing it happen. I hope you're in a position to do so. So everyone at home, I just want to say Karen has come in to say the youth playground is a fantastic idea. Thanks very much, Karen. and Marie agrees. So there's comments happening. For everybody who's watching, remember, if you have asked your question before and you've been satisfied with the answer, or you've had an answer and you'd like to road test Stephen here and see how he could approach the answer to possibly the same question, a different take on the question, or if you'd like to give your own context and try and flesh it out a little bit, please do pop your questions in the comments below. Hit that like button. Tell people that this video is here. I'm sure Stephen will have a chance to share it on his own channels before long. Excuse me. But great ideas for the younger people of Selbridge, says Charlotte. Best of luck from Claire. This is all rolling in underneath this video right now. So you should be quite encouraged. There's a lovely sentiment there. So everybody, I'm going to wrap it up here. This has been another fantastic interview, chock-a-block full of ideas. Ray Fred Price says, great idea. I think he's referring to the youth playground there. Thanks, Ray. Full of ideas. Stephen, you've done a magnificent job of answering the questions. For full disclosure, as it happens, Stephen knocked on my own door. I was in my own front garden last night, right before I went live with Kira. So I did have a chance to meet you in person, which is a treat for me. So thanks for that. Thanks for coming on tonight. And everybody, let's get at it in the comments. There's plenty to talk about.
Can I just jump in?
Yes.
I know all of the other councillors will probably say the same thing. People haven't seen the work you've done behind the scenes to get this up and running. I know we had our own technical issues trying to get it sorted. But
that's right. We had problems. Yeah, that's right.
But speaking to other candidates, we're all extremely grateful for it. It's to have 600 plus people who are engaged in politics. I was telling, we're in a WhatsApp group with the other SOCDEM candidates. I was telling them that this is happening, and the level of jealousy is unbelievable. They wish their town had a politics page where the people who are really engaged are, so accessible. So thank you so much. And secondly, lastly, for the referendum on divorce, I'm voting yes, and please don't forget to vote yes for the referendum. I know it's not a local issue, and I'm very bold, but I have to get
You're all right. I'll let you away with that one. Sure, you buttered me up. Thanks, Stephen, and it has been an absolute pleasure. It remains a pleasure, and I have enjoyed the interviews done so far, and I'm looking forward to the ones to come. And you never know, if we have a mix on our council who are amenable, you never know, maybe we could do it again. Maybe we could do it quarterly or something.
Absolutely.
You never
Absolutely.
know. There you go, we'll see what happens. Everybody, I'm going to wrap it up here. Again, we have lots more support coming in. Thanks very much, Nuala. Gosh, Nuala is enjoying the interviews as well. So I'm going to share this video very, very shortly. If you're watching it on a replay, remember you can still stick your comments in. Keep going and give a thumbs up to Stephen, and fair play to him for a job well done this evening. Stephen Marken, thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Peter Trassa.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye.